Hello, I am Mrs. Leonard, and this is the video for contour lines that we did in class on Thursday, September 28th. I'm going to show you the output page because that is the page that students struggled with the most. So you should have already gotten the notes, these notes, from the other video on the contour lines input page, and we are going to look at page 10. So this is the page that should be attached to page 10 in your science interactive notebook. Okay. So you already know that a contour line is a line that connects points of equal value, right? Equal elevation. And when we draw contour lines, we have to make sure that our contour lines are following those 4 rules from our notes. Our first rule, I'll bring them over here so you can see them. Our first rule, all points along the same contour line are at the same elevation, okay? So when we create these contour lines, we have to make sure that we're connecting points that have the same elevation. That's really important, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and give you the example that we did in class here on grid A. And when I start on a contour map, because you're going to be doing a lot of these this year, I tend to just pick a number and I start with it. So for this one, I decided to start with 45 because I could see a couple of those right off the bat. So I'm going to connect those because a contour line connects points of equal value. I kind of think of drawing contour lines as similar to connect the dots, but instead of going from like 45 to 46 to 47 to 48, I connect all the 45s, okay? So instead of starting with 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4, I connect all of the 1s, and then I connect all of the 2s, which on a connect the dots you don't usually have. You don't usually have more than 1, but on a contour map you do. Okay, so if I start with 45, let's say I'm going to start right here. And by the way, if you're not using a pencil, I would switch to pencil, okay? Because I tend to make mistakes too. That's why I always use pencil on contour lines. So we're going to draw a contour line from this 45 to this 45. Now, there's another 45 over here. I'm going to draw this one first. I could have gone straight across this way, but the problem with this is that when I draw this line, it's going straight through the 50, and 50 is not the same elevation as 45. So I've already violated rule number 1, that all points along the same contour line are at the same elevation. So that's why I'm going to go here, because I also know I can double check myself. This is 40 and this is 50, which means halfway between 40 and 50 must be 45. It's not like I just jump in elevation from 40 feet up to 50 feet. I'm going to climb, right? If this is like a hill, I'm going to climb from 40 to 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, and 50. And so 45 is here, so it's a really great way for me to check to see if I did this right. And now, once I get to this part, I say, okay, where do I go next? And I'm looking for another 45. And I can see another 45 right here. And I want to see, which way do I go? Do I have to go around this way to get to 45? Or can I go down this way to get to 45? I need to make sure that whatever I go, 45 goes between those 2 numbers. So here's 40 and here's 50. So I'm going to follow between 40 and 50 because I know 45 is in between, and go right here to 45. Next thing I figure out is, well, where do I go next? That's always the question I'm asking. Where do I go next? And it's baby steps. See, it's taken me almost 2 minutes, 3 minutes just to get this far, okay? So this is 45. Here's another 45. Can I go between 40 and 50? Yeah, halfway between. So I'm gonna, whoops, see, I already made a mistake. Gotta use that pencil. 45. Here's the 45 again, because I don't see any other 45s. Can I go between the 40 and the 50? Yes, I can. Now, another way you can double check yourself, contour lines separate high values from low values. So everything on one side of the contour line should be higher than 45, and everything on the other side of the contour line should be lower than 45. Is that true here? Yes. So that means I've done it correctly. So the contour interval here is 10, which means the change in elevation from one contour line to another one is 10. So I could go up to 55 from here, but there is no 55. So I'm going to go down from here. So 45 minus 10 is 35. So here's a 35, and here's a 35. So how do I get from here to here? Well, I can't just draw a line straight through. That violates that first rule. So I got to figure out, am I going to go over this way to the right, or am I going to go to the left? Well, is 35 in between 45 and 30? Yes, it is. So I know that I'm going to go between those two numbers to get to this 35. Now contour lines tend to be kind of curved and not pointy. So I'm actually going to try and make this like this, because I see this 35 over here. And I think I can get over there because 35 is between 20 and 40. So I'm going to go like that, okay? Again, I want to get over here. I'm always thinking, where am I going to go next? Where's the next 35? It's over there. I can go between 30 and 45. So I'm going to go up here between those, hit that 35. Where do I go next? Here's another 35. Can I go between 20 and 40? I sure can. Where do I go next? There's a 35. Can I go between 30 and 45? I sure can. Where do I go next? Here's another 35. Can I go between 20 and 40? I sure can. And then I can go over to here to this 35 by going between 30 and 45 here. And I can get back to this 35 by going between 20 and 40. And voila, oops, I've made my contour map, okay? So go ahead and try grid B, pause the video, and then you can come back and see if you did it right. So pause the video and try grid B. Okay, so you should be back, and your grid B should look like this. Does yours look like this? Sorry about the wobbling. Yours should look like that. Now, if it doesn't, might be a good time to check in with somebody in our class or another 9th grader that everybody's taking our science, and see if they can help you understand what you did wrong, okay? Or you can always come in for lunch, all right? All right, so not everybody, but some of you guys, I required you to do this part, and this is really challenging. This is one of those really challenging, bigger contour maps. Periods 4 and 5, I told you that you needed to try this, and I think period 2 as well. So you're going to start using these contour line rules, and the hints I gave you, the contour interval is 5, and I said try starting with 60 and connecting all of those elevations first. Now when you do these contour lines, they're not always circles. I know that the ones that we did as an example were circles, so if you did this and you came up with a straight line for the 60-foot contour line, you did it right, okay? So if you were really stuck with this, I'm going to go through it with you, and that way you can kind of see whether or not you're getting this, okay? So if you start with 60, the first 60 I see is here. I know there's a little line there, but that is 60. So if this is 60, I have to find another 60. That's my goal every single time. Where do I go next? And I'm always looking for numbers that are the same. So if this is 60, here's another 60. How do I get down there? I can't go straight through 59, but I can go between 59 and 63. Now, if you're really trying to do a really accurate job on these contour maps, you could also think to yourself, how close am I getting to these? Am I going to draw my 60 line closer to 59, or am I going to draw it closer to 63? In other words, is 60 closer to 59, or is it closer to 63? It's closer to 59. So you can draw your contour line closer to 59 when you go down there to that 60, okay? If that's beyond you, then don't worry about it. As long as you're going between those numbers, you're good to go. Okay? Where do I go next? Here's another 60. And I can go straight there. Where do I go next? Here's another 60. I can go straight there. Where do I go next? This is where it gets challenging, and you really have to look around. Your attention to detail here will be really key. Now, if you saw this one, awesome. But again, you have to figure out, how am I going to get there, okay? I can go between these two numbers, between 58 and 62, and I can go between 59 and 61. And I can go to 60. Now, sometimes you might not be able to find another 60, and that's okay too. Between 59 and 61, I know there has to be a 60 right there, so I can just go right there. I know that between 61 and 58 there's a 60, probably closer to the 61. I can go right there. And oh, there we go, lo and behold, here's another 60. Okay? So if you don't see a number, you know that there has to be that number in between other numbers, so look for those. Here's another 60. I can go in between here, closer to the 59 if you're trying to think about it that way. Here's another 60. Here's 59 and 62 I can go between. I know I can't, here's a check, right? I know I can't go between 58 and 59. 60, the number 60 is not in between these two numbers on a number line. So I know that it has to go in between these two numbers, closer to the 59 if you're thinking about it in those terms. And then here's my 60 down here. So technically speaking, this is correct, right? The one thing I am going to point out is rule number 2. Take a look at your input page on page 11 and look at rule number 2. All contour lines eventually connect with themselves. So because of that, when we draw them on a map, we do tend to draw these lines so that they go to the edge. Uh-oh, I'm sorry about that. You can't even see what I'm doing down here. Here we go. I do tend to draw these contour lines so that they go all the way down and they meet the edge of the map like this down here. Okay, so that kind of follows our rule number 2. And then I'll go back up here and I will do the same thing. I'll connect it up there with that line, with that edge of the map, okay? And then I'm done with my 60. So if my contour interval is 5, what is the next one I could try drawing? Well, I could try drawing 65, or I could try drawing 55. Either one of those is fine. You're going to have to draw both of them anyway, so you can start wherever you want to. Another clue I'll give you is once you've drawn your first line, the other ones kind of follow along with it. So I can expect that my 55 is probably going to be following along with 60 on this side, and my 65 is probably going to be following along with my line on the right hand side. That's just kind of what contour lines look like. They kind of run parallel to one another, okay? So I'm going to get you started and then see if you can finish it up on your own, and then I can check it for you in class tomorrow, okay? Or whenever you get it done. I'm going to start with the 65, I think. I'm going to do 65 on here. So I see 65 here. Where do I go? Oh, here's a 65. So now I got to figure out, how do I get there? There's a 66 here and here, and so I can go between there. I know I can't go between 66 and 67. So between 66, and I'm going to start at the edge of my map. It's going to be closer to the 66. Here's 63 and 66. It's going to be a little closer to the 66, not to the 63. It's farther away from that. And now I can come down here and go right over that 65. Now I got to figure out, where do I go next? Wow, there's a 65 way down here. All right, so I got to figure it out, right? Can I go between 61 and 64? Nope. 64 and 67? Yep. I'm going to go a little closer to the 64. Can I go between the 67 and the 68? No. Between the 63 and the 67? Yep. And I think it's going to go exactly halfway between those two. Between the 63 and 66? Yep, closer to the 66. And there's my 65. Okay. Where do I go next? One way down here. So again, do the same thing. Can I go between 61 and 63? No. Between 63 and 66? Yeah. And you just keep doing that. Eventually you're going to get pretty quick at doing this, just like I am. Okay, it takes a lot of practice. Remember, I've been doing this for about 19 years. And I don't see any more. I can double check myself now. Everything on the right should be higher than 65. And everything to the left should be lower than 65. Okay? All right. So now that we've got you started, you can go ahead and see if you can finish these up on your own and check them in class tomorrow. Good skill. Good luck.